The sleek research vessel Eternal Dawn hovered above the ruins of Keldor, its engines humming quietly against the pale orange sky. Chief Archaeologist Day One adjusted his breathing apparatus and stepped carefully over the crumbling stone structures. "Director Kim, you need to see this," he called, kneeling beside a wall covered in ancient symbols. Director Kim Soo approached, her experienced eyes widening as she studied the markings. "These are references to humans," she whispered, running her fingers over the carvings. "Not just mentions, detailed accounts." "But humans are myths," replied Assistant Researcher Han, joining them. "Children's stories to frighten youngsters into behaving." "What if they weren't?" Dai One asked, activating his scanner. "Look at these coordinates. They'd point to the forbidden sector." Director Kim stood silently, considering the implications. Going to the forbidden sector meant risking everything: careers, funding, perhaps even their lives. No expedition had returned from there in over 4 centuries. "Prepare the ship," she finally ordered. "We leave at dawn." Back at the Galactic Science Academy, their proposal met with derision. "Chasing fairy tales now, Kim," laughed Senior Administrator Park. "Your distinguished career ends with hunting mythical monsters." But Kim stood firm. "We follow the evidence, wherever it leads." 3 weeks later, the Eternal Dawn with its crew of 8 departed for the coordinates, leaving behind a skeptical scientific community and crossing into uncharted territory. The ship's lounge was quiet that evening. Dai One sat studying the holographic images of the ruins. The symbols glowed blue in the dim light. He traced them with his finger, trying to make sense of what they had found. "Still working?" Kim asked, entering with 2 cups of hot tea. "I can't stop thinking about it," he replied, accepting the cup. "What if humans really existed? What if everything we know is wrong?" Kim smiled. "That's why we became scientists, isn't it? To find truth." Their conversation was interrupted when Engineer Min rushed in. "Director, we're picking up energy readings ahead. Nothing like I've ever seen before." On the bridge, the crew gathered around the main view screen. A vast emptiness stretched before them, but the sensors told a different story. "There's something there," Pilot Jun said, adjusting the controls. "Something big." "All our instruments are going crazy," added Navigator Sue, frantically working at her station. "It's like space itself is folded somehow." Kim leaned forward. "Take us closer." Slowly. As they approached, the ship's alarms began to sound. Red warning lights flashed across every console. "Power fluctuations," Min called out. "Whatever's out there is affecting our systems." Suddenly, a massive shape appeared ahead. A structure so vast it seemed impossible. It wasn't a planet or a ship. It looked like a doorway suspended in space, its edges pulsing with strange energy. "Is that a gate?" Han whispered. "The coordinates led us right to it," Dai One confirmed, checking his data. "This has to be what the ruins were pointing to." Kim made her decision quickly. "Send a probe through." The small probe launched from the ship and approached the gate. As it passed through, their screens flickered and went dark. When they returned seconds later, the probe was gone. "No signal," Min reported. "It's like it vanished." "Or it went somewhere else," Kim suggested. Before they could discuss further, the ship lurched violently. Crew members grabbed onto consoles to keep from falling. "We're being pulled toward it," Jun shouted, fighting with the controls. "Engines aren't responding. All power to reverse thrusters," Kim ordered, but it was too late. The Eternal Dawn was caught in an invisible current, drawing them inexorably toward the gate. The structure grew larger on their screens, filling their view with its strange, shifting patterns. "Braced for impact," Kim called out as they reached the threshold. But there was no impact. Instead, the ship slipped through the gate like passing through a waterfall. For a moment, everything went dark and silent. Then, with a flash of light that blinded them all, they emerged on the other side. When their vision cleared, gasps filled the bridge. Before them stretched the vast starscape unlike anything they had ever seen. Strange constellations painted the darkness, and in the distance, a blue-green planet hung like a jewel. "Where are we?" Han asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Min checked the navigational systems. "According to our star charts, nowhere. These constellations don't match anything in our database." "Look," Sue pointed at the screen. "There's something approaching." A small vessel was moving toward them, its design unlike any ship they had seen before. It was sleek and curved, without the angular protrusions common to their own technology. "They're hailing us," Jun reported. Kim took a deep breath. "Open a channel." The screen flickered, and then they saw them for the first time. Beings that matched precisely the ancient descriptions of humans. No protective plates, exposed facial features, varied skin tones, and head fur in different colors. "Greetings, travelers," the human said in perfect universal standard. "I am Captain Gill of Earth Defense Fleet. Welcome to Sol System." The bridge fell silent. Kim stepped forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I am Director Kim Sue of the Galactic Science Academy." "Are you human?" The being on the screen smiled. "Yes, we are human. And you are the first visitors we've allowed through the gate in over 400 years. Day one moved to Kim's side. "The stories were true." "Some were," Captain Gill replied. "Others were exaggerated. We've been waiting for someone to find the right clues, to be curious enough to seek us out." "Why hide?" Kim asked. "Why let the galaxy think you were just myths?" Gill's expression grew serious. "That's a long story, Director Kim. One best told in person. Will you dock with our station and join us? There is much to discuss." Kim looked at her crew, seeing the mix of fear and excitement on their faces. This discovery would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy and its history. "We would be honored," she answered. As the Eternal Dawn followed the human vessel toward a massive space station orbiting the blue planet, Kim couldn't help but wonder what other truths awaited them. The humans were real. What else in their myths might be real as well? Day one stood beside her, watching the planet grow larger in their view screen. "Do you think we were meant to find them?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," Kim replied. "But I think they've been waiting to be found." The mystery of humanity was about to be unveiled, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The barrier came without warning, a shimmering wall of energy that the sensors hadn't detected until they were upon it. "Shields failing," shouted Pilot June, engine core destabilizing. The Eternal Dawn shuddered violently as they pushed through the barrier, alarms blaring across every console. Then, darkness. When power returned hours later, they found themselves in a massive docking bay, their ship nestled safely inside a structure of impossible size. "We're being boarded," Engineer Min reported, pointing to the airlock. The door slid open, revealing not the monsters of legend but beings that looked remarkably like the ancient descriptions of humans. Bipedal, varying skin tones, with exposed facial features instead of protective plates. "I am Captain Lee," said one, speaking perfect universal standard. "Welcome to Earth Station Horizon." "You're human," One stammered. Captain Lee smiled. "And you're the first visitors we've allowed through the barrier in a very long time." Over the following days, the expedition learned the truth. Humans hadn't gone extinct or fled in defeat as legends claimed. They had withdrawn voluntarily, creating the energy barrier to separate themselves from galactic affairs after determining their presence was destabilizing younger civilizations. "We tried to help," explained Science Director Tad during a tour of their vast agricultural domes. "But our technology, our methods, they advanced too quickly for other species. It created imbalances, conflicts." "So you just left?" asked Han incredulously. "We gave the galaxy space to find its own path," Tai replied. "We've been watching, learning, and waiting for the right time to reconnect. Director Kim stood with her hand pressed against the viewing glass, looking out at Earth below them. The blue and green planet spun slowly, white clouds swirling across its surface. It was more beautiful than any world she had ever seen. "It's hard to believe," she said as Captain Lee joined her. "All this time, humans were real, not just stories to scare children." "What stories do they tell about us?" Lee asked, genuinely curious. Kim hesitated. "That humans were violent conquerors, that you could survive any environment, adapt to any situation, that you spread across the stars like a plague until something finally stopped you." Lee laughed softly. "Well, the adaptation part is true enough. The rest," he shook his head. "History gets twisted over time." "Then what is the truth?" Kim asked. Lee gestured for her to follow. They walked through wide corridors where other humans nodded greetings as they passed. The station was enormous, with sections that seemed to mimic natural environments from Earth. In one area, trees grew beneath artificial sunlight. In another, water flowed in a stream surrounded by flowers. 3,000 years ago, humans first left Earth, Lee explained as they walked. "We were explorers, eager to find other intelligent life. When we found the first alien civilizations, we were overjoyed. We shared our technology freely, thinking we were helping." "What went wrong?" Kim asked. "We didn't understand how our presence would affect younger species. Our technology, given too quickly, disturbed natural development patterns. Some species used our gifts for war. Others became dependent on us. Cultural identities were lost as civilizations rushed to become more human-like." They entered a large room with a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. Tiny lights represented different civilizations, pulsing with various colors. The stellar conflict was the turning point, Lee continued, activating a sequence that showed historical events. 7 civilizations went to war, each using weapons based on human designs. Billions died. We tried to stop it, but our intervention only made things worse. Kim watched as the hologram showed planets burning, fleets clashing in space. "Our legends call this the Great Calamity. They say unknown forces destroy those worlds." "Not unknown," Lee said quietly, "just forgotten." After the conflict, human leaders made a difficult decision. We would remove ourselves from galactic affairs. We created the barrier, hiding Earth and our colonies, and let the galaxy heal without our influence. You've been watching us all this time. Observing, yes. Learning from our mistakes. We've advanced in ways we never imagined, discovering that true progress comes from harmony, not just technological achievement. Their tour continued through research labs, where humans worked on projects beyond Kim's understanding. In one room, scientists appeared to be manipulating gravity itself with simple hand gestures. In another, plants grew at accelerated rates under gentle blue light. "But why allow us through now?" Daiwan asked when he and the other crew members joined them for a meal in a garden-like dining area. "After all this time in hiding." Science Director Tai set down her cup of steaming liquid. "Because you found us through genuine curiosity and research, not conquest or greed, and because the galaxy is changing. New threats are emerging that will require all intelligent species to work together." "What threats?" Han asked nervously. "That's a conversation for another day," Captain Lee interjected. "Tonight is for welcome and understanding." Later that evening, Engineer Min and Navigator Su explored the station's recreational areas with their human guide, Yun. They watched in amazement as humans engaged in activities that seemed impossible, floating in anti-gravity chambers, communicating without speaking, creating art with thoughts alone. "How do you do these things?" Min asked, watching a child apparently move an object just by looking at it. "We've had 3,000 years to evolve and develop," Yun explained. "Without the distraction of interstellar politics, we focused inward, exploring the potential of our minds and bodies. Are you even the same species anymore?" Su wondered aloud. Yun smiled. We're still human. We still feel joy, sadness, love, fear. We still argue and make mistakes. We've just learned to channel our energies differently. Back in their quarters that night, the crew gathered to discuss what they had seen. They could have destroyed us when we approached the barrier, Pilot Jun said, but they chose to bring us in safely. Everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong, Han added. They're not monsters. They're just different. Different and far more advanced than us, Min pointed out. Did you see their technology? It's like magic. Director Kim had been quiet, processing everything she had learned. Tomorrow, Captain Lee is taking us to meet their council. They want to discuss restoring contact with the rest of the galaxy. After all this time in hiding, why now? Dai-One asked. Kim looked out at the stars through their viewport. I think they're lonely, she said simply. They've been watching the galaxy grow without them for centuries. Maybe they're ready to rejoin the community they left behind. As the crew prepared for sleep, Dai-One approached Kim. Director, do you think the Academy will believe us when we return? Or will they think we've lost our minds? Kim smiled. We have evidence now. And soon, the whole galaxy will know the truth. The lights dimmed in their quarters, but most of the crew found sleep difficult. Beyond their walls, an entire civilization of living myths went about their lives. Humans were real, and tomorrow they would learn why these legendary beings had chosen this moment to reveal themselves after centuries of silence. This is impossible, Jun whispered as he watched a human engineer manipulate gravitational fields with a small handheld device, effortlessly lifting a shuttlecraft for repairs. The expedition had spent 2 weeks among the humans, each day bringing new wonders that defied their understanding of physics, biology, and technology. Director Kim found herself in the vast library complex, with research coordinator Jun, reviewing historical records of humanity's withdrawal. The Great Retreat wasn't from fear, Jun explained, displaying holographic images of ancient conflicts. We discovered that our mere presence accelerated technological development in ways that outpaced ethical evolution. Species weren't ready. The Corvus Wars, Kim realized. The Stellar Plague. The legends say these were natural disasters, but they were the result of our technologies being adopted too quickly by societies unprepared for their implications, Jun confirmed sadly. We decided isolation was kinder than watching civilizations destroy themselves with tools we provided. Meanwhile, Dai-One observed children in a learning center, amazed at their cognitive abilities. They're solving equations it would take our most advanced computers hours to calculate, he told Chief Medical Officer Song. Human minds evolve differently, Song explained. We developed a unique balance between logic and intuition, between individual achievement and collective harmony. Is that why the stories portray humans as simultaneously brilliant and terrifying? Dai-One asked. Song nodded. To species that think differently, the human capacity for both creation and destruction must seem frightening indeed. On the morning of their 15th day aboard Earth Station Horizon, Director Kim gathered her crew for a meeting in their quarters. Their faces showed a mix of wonder and confusion after all they had seen. We need to discuss what we've learned, Kim said, sitting down with them in a circle. Each of you, share something that stood out to you. Han spoke first. The children. I watched them play games that were actually complex problem-solving exercises, and they were laughing while doing it. Their medical technology, added Min. They showed me a device that can repair damaged organs without surgery. They said it was basic equipment. Sue touched her wrist where a human doctor had healed a cut she'd gotten while exploring. They can feel what others feel. The doctor knew exactly where it hurt without me saying anything. Jun looked troubled. Their ships can travel between stars in days, not months. If they wanted to, they could control the entire galaxy. But they don't want to, Kim reminded them. That's what we're learning here. Later that day, Kim joined Captain Lee for a walk through a section of the station designed to resemble an Earth forest. Real trees grew from soil, birds flew freely overhead, and a small stream ran through the center. My crew is struggling to understand your people, Kim admitted as they walked. The gap between our technology and yours is overwhelming. Lee nodded. It was the saying when humans first encountered less advanced species. The difference creates fear, even when none is intended. Is that why you created the myths? To keep others away with fear? We didn't create the myths, Lee corrected. We simply left, and stories filled the void. It's easier to believe in monsters than to accept that a species chose to give up power and influence. They stopped by the stream, watching small fish dart beneath the clear water. Tomorrow you'll meet with our council, Lee said. They'll explain our intentions more fully. But first, there's something I want to show you. He led her to a special chamber deep within the station. Inside was a simple pedestal with what looked like an ordinary rock. This doesn't seem very impressive after everything else I've seen, Kim said. Lee smiled. Touch it. When Kim placed her hand on the stone, her mind exploded with images and feelings. She saw worlds burning, fleets of ships battling in space, children crying on dusty planets. She felt overwhelming grief, regret, and finally, resolve. Just as quickly as they had come, the images faded. What was that? She gasped, pulling her hand away. We call it the memory stone. It holds the collective experience of why we chose isolation. Every human touches it when they come of age, to understand the weight of our history. It was terrible, Kim said, her voice shaking. Yes, Lee agreed. Those were the consequences of our well-intentioned interference. We gave technology without understanding how it would be used. We tried to help species advance without realizing they needed to find their own paths. Meanwhile, Daiwan was invited to observe a class of human teenagers. Their teacher, Ho, was explaining concepts that Daiwan recognized as advanced quantum theory, but with elements he'd never encountered before. Your students understand this? He asked Ho during a break. They're just beginning, Ho replied. Human minds are particularly good at seeing patterns and making intuitive leaps. We discovered long ago that our greatest strength wasn't our technology, but our ability to connect seemingly unrelated ideas. In our legends, humans are described as dangerously unpredictable. Daiwan commented. Ho laughed. That part of the myths is probably true. Creativity requires a certain comfort with unpredictability. That evening, the crew gathered for dinner with several human officials. The conversation was lively as they compared cultural differences and similarities. I've been wondering, Han said to Science Director Tay, if humans are so advanced, why do you still have physical bodies? Why not become pure energy or something even more evolved? Ta smiled. We experimented with that path. Some humans did choose to transcend physical form, but most of us discovered that being human means experiencing life through our bodies, feeling wind on our skin, tasting food, embracing loved ones. We advanced our bodies rather than abandoning them. And you still have families, children? Sue asked. Of course, Tai replied. Technology changes, but the heart of what makes us human doesn't. After dinner, Engineer Min approached Kim in private. Director, I need to tell you something. I think the humans are hiding something. What do you mean? Kim asked. When I was in their engineering section, I noticed strange energy readings, and some areas of the station are completely off limits. They're friendly, but they're still keeping secrets. Kim considered this. We've only been here 2 weeks. Min, would you share everything about your civilization with strangers so quickly? I suppose not, Min admitted. But what if? Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement that the council was ready to meet with them a day earlier than planned. The council chamber was a circular room with 7 humans seated at a crescent-shaped table. The center of the room held a holographic display of the galaxy, slowly rotating. Welcome, visitors from the stars, said Council Leader Sun, a tall woman with silver hair. You have seen much of our world in these past weeks. Tomorrow, we will reveal to you why we have chosen this moment to end our isolation. Why not tell us now? Kim asked. Sun's expression grew serious. Because tonight we want you to consider what you've learned about humanity without the burden of what comes next. Consider carefully. What kind of species would choose to remove itself from power rather than risk harming others? That night, Kim couldn't sleep. She stood at the viewport in her quarters, looking out at the stars and the beautiful blue planet below. What would our world be like if humans had stayed involved in galactic affairs? She wondered aloud. Better in some ways, worse in others, said a voice behind her. It was Da1. I couldn't sleep either, he explained, joining her at the window. I keep thinking about what we've seen here. They could rule the galaxy if they wanted to. But they don't want to, Kim replied. That's what makes them different from any species in our legends. Tomorrow we find out why they're reaching out now, after all this time, Da1 said. Whatever the reason, I think it must be important. Kim nodded, watching the lights of the station reflect in Earth's oceans below. I have a feeling our journey is just beginning. The alarm sounded during the expedition's third week among humans. Captain Lee rushed into the conference room, where Kim's team was discussing cultural exchange protocols. We've detected multiple ships breaching the barrier, he announced grimly. Military configuration. On the command center's display, they watched as 12 warships bearing the insignia of the Stellar Dominion push through the barrier, weapons charging. How did they find this place? Kim asked, horrified. Han looked down. They must have tracked our communications. I sent research updates through an encrypted channel. Dominion encryption can be broken, Da1 said quietly. The human response was not what the expedition expected. There was no panic, no rushing to battle stations. Instead, Defense Coordinator Jin calmly activated a series of controls. We don't wish to harm them, Jin explained. They seek our technology, believing it will give them power over other species. The invading fleet suddenly froze in space, caught in some invisible field. What are you doing to them? Kim asked. Cognitive resonance field, Jin replied. Non-destructive. They'll experience a moment of clarity, seeing themselves and their actions from outside their cultural conditioning. Later, they watched as the Dominion fleet departed peacefully, their commanders having requested diplomatic talks instead of attempting conquest. You could have destroyed them, Min observed. We could have, agreed Captain Lee. But that's precisely why we withdrew centuries ago. Power without compassion becomes tyranny, regardless of species. The command center remained quiet after the Dominion ships disappeared from the screens. Director Kim and her crew stood in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. No weapons fired, no lives lost, yet the most aggressive military force in the known galaxy had simply turned around and left. I don't understand, Jun finally said. What exactly did you do to them? Defense Coordinator Jin stepped away from her control panel. The cognitive resonance field allows beings to experience empathy on a level they normally cannot access. It temporarily connects them to the collective emotions and thoughts of others. You forced them to feel empathy, Han asked, sounding disturbed. Not forced, Jin corrected gently. We removed the barriers that prevent empathy. What they did with that experience was their choice. Captain Lee turned to face Kim's crew. This isn't the first time the Dominion has tried to breach our defenses. They've been testing the barrier for decades, ever since they discovered ancient references to human technology in ruins similar to those you found. Similar ruins exist elsewhere. Da1 asked. His scientific curiosity immediately piqued. We left many outposts before our withdrawal, Lee explained. Most were destroyed or buried over time, but some remain. The Dominion has been collecting artifacts, trying to reverse engineer our old technology. An aide approached Lee and whispered something in his ear. His expression grew serious. The Council wishes to speak with all of you immediately, he announced. The situation has become more complex. They were escorted to a different room this time, a war room from the look of the displays showing various sectors of space. Council Leader Sun and the other 6 council members were already there, their faces grim. The Dominion fleet's attempt to breach our defenses was merely a distraction, Sun explained without preamble. While our attention was focused here, they launched attacks on 3 developing civilizations in the Outer Rim. The displays showed images of planets under bombardment, cities burning, people fleeing. Why? Kim asked, her voice barely audible. What could they gain from attacking developing worlds? Resources, territory, Council Member Du replied. But mostly fear. The Dominion believes that controlling through fear is more efficient than earning trust. This is why we asked to meet with your expedition. Sun continued. We've been monitoring galactic developments for centuries. The Dominion's rise to power has been particularly troubling. They'd been systematically eliminating or subjugating any civilization that might challenge them. That's why you brought us here, Dai-1 realized. You knew this was coming. Sun nodded. We detected your approach to the ruins on Keldor VYI. We could have redirected you, hidden the evidence. Instead, we saw an opportunity. Your academy is respected throughout the galaxy as neutral and dedicated to knowledge. You could be the bridge between humanity and the rest of galactic civilization. A bridge to what end? Kim asked. To help us stop the Dominion without becoming what we once were. A species that imposes its will on others, Sun replied. Defense Coordinator Jin stepped forward. We've prepared a ship for you, with technology that will allow you to reach the Outer Rim in time to help those under attack. Us, Jun exclaimed. What could we possibly do against the Dominion fleet? The ship carries defensive systems only, Jin explained. Similar to what you saw us use today. No weapons that could kill, only tools to protect and heal. And knowledge, added Council Member Du. The most important thing we can share. Kim looked at her crew, seeing the fear and uncertainty in their eyes. Why not go yourselves? You have the power to stop this. Captain Lee shook his head. If humans suddenly reappeared after centuries, especially with advanced technology, it would create panic throughout the galaxy. Old fears would resurface. But you, scientists from a respected institution, can introduce our return gradually, in a way that won't cause chaos. Kim stepped away from the group, needing a moment to think. This was far beyond their original mission of archaeological research. They were being asked to step into a galactic conflict. Day-1 joined her. Director, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that we came here looking for truth about humans, she replied quietly. And now we found it. They're not the monsters of legend, but they're not perfect beings either. They're trying to find a better way to use their power. Do we help them? He asked. Kim turned to face the council. If we do this, we need to understand exactly what you're asking of us. We're not diplomats or soldiers. We're asking you to witness, Sun replied. To see what the Dominion is doing and to show those worlds that help is possible without domination. To carry a message that humanity is returning, not as conquerors but as allies. The next hours passed in a blur of preparation. The humans provided Kim's crew with equipment and brief training on how to use it. The ship they were given was small but incorporated technology far beyond anything in the rest of the galaxy. It could travel faster, shield itself more effectively, and carried the same defensive systems that had turned away the Dominion fleet. As they prepared to depart, Captain Lee met them in the docking bay. There's something else you should know, he said. The Council didn't tell you everything. I suspected as much, Kim replied. The Dominion didn't just discover human artifacts by chance. They were guided to them by something else, something ancient that has been dormant for millennia. We believe it's using the Dominion to draw us out of hiding. What is it? Han asked. We don't know exactly, Lee admitted, but we've detected energy patterns that match records from before the Great Retreat. Whatever it is, it's not from this galaxy, and it doesn't appear to be friendly. Min looked alarmed. So we're walking into something even more dangerous than we thought. Yes, Lee said simply, but you won't be alone. Other human ships are already moving into position throughout the galaxy, staying hidden for now. If you truly need help, call, and we will come. As they boarded their new ship, Kim felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. They had come searching for myths and found truth instead. A truth more complex than any of them had imagined. "Director," Sue asked as they prepared for departure, "are we doing the right thing?" Kim looked back at Earth Station horizon through the view screen, then at the stars beyond. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But I do know that knowledge comes with responsibility. We know the truth about humans now. We can't pretend we don't." The ship's engines hummed to life, different from any sound they had heard before. Ahead lay danger, uncertainty, and a role none of them had ever trained for, but also the chance to be part of something greater, the reunion of humanity with the galaxy it had once left behind. On their final day among humans, Kim's expedition gathered in the Horizon's Great Assembly Hall. Representatives of Earth's Leadership Council had arrived to make an unprecedented announcement. "We believe the time has come to carefully rejoin galactic society," declared Council Speaker Young. "And we would like you to help us." "Us?" asked Kim, stunned. "But we're just researchers." "You are bridges," Young explained. "You've seen both worlds. You understand the truth about humanity beyond myths and legends." The Council proposed a gradual reintroduction, beginning with scientific and cultural exchanges, followed by careful diplomatic missions. Kim's team would serve as the first ambassadors, carrying knowledge back to the Galactic Science Academy. "Will other species accept humans after centuries of fearful stories?" Dai-One wondered aloud. "Some will fear us," acknowledged Young. "Others will seek to exploit us. But we believe enough will understand that diversity of thought and biology strengthens us all." As the Eternal Dawn prepared for departure, loaded with cultural artifacts and scientific data proving humanity's existence, Captain Lee presented Kim with a small device. "A direct communication link," he explained. "The first official connection between humans and the galaxy in 400 years. 3 months later, Director Kim stood before the Galactic Council, her evidence irrefutable, her story almost beyond belief. "The humans are not the monsters of our legends," she concluded her presentation. "They are neither gods nor demons, but a species that recognized their impact on others and chose restraint over dominance. They request nothing but understanding as we begin this new chapter together." As she spoke, ships were already departing from Earth, carrying human representatives to key worlds across the galaxy. The age of isolation was ending. The age of truth was beginning. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Director Kim finished her presentation. The representatives of 87 species sat motionless, trying to process what they had just learned. Humans were real. Not only real, but alive and thriving behind their self-imposed barrier. And now they wanted to return. Senior Counselor Vax, his scaled skin reflecting the chamber's blue lights, was the first to speak. "Director Kim, your evidence is compelling. But if what you say is true, why should we trust these humans? Why now, after all this time?" Before Kim could answer, the doors to the chamber opened. Captain Lee entered, accompanied by 2 other humans. A wave of murmurs swept through the room. Many counselors had never seen a human except in ancient artwork. Some reached for ceremonial weapons. Others simply stared. "Forgive our intrusion," Lee said, his voice calm as he approached the central platform. "But we felt it was time to speak for ourselves." Kim smiled and stepped aside, allowing Lee to address the council directly. "For 400 years, we have watched and waited," Lee began. "We removed ourselves from galactic affairs not out of fear or defeat, but because we recognized that our presence was causing harm despite our best intentions." He activated a small device, projecting images above the chamber floor. Stars, planets, and civilizations appeared in glowing detail. "In our absence, many of you have flourished. You found your own paths, created your own solutions to the challenges of existence. This was exactly what we hoped would happen." And now you wish to return? Counselor Vax asked skeptically. To what end? Because isolation has served its purpose, but can no longer be the answer, the human woman beside Lee replied. Kim recognized her as Science Director Ta. The galaxy faces threats that will require all sentient beings to work together. Ta gestured, and the projection changed to show a dark region of space where stars seemed to be dimming. Something is coming, she said simply. Something ancient and patient. It has been moving slowly toward the populated regions of our galaxy for centuries. We believe it is the same force that nearly destroyed all intelligent life once before, long ago. The council erupted in questions and demands. Senior Administrator Park, who had once mocked Kim's expedition, looked pale. How convenient, he said loudly over the noise. These humans appear with tales of doom, positioning themselves as saviors. Lee shook his head. Not saviors. Partners. We do not seek to lead or control. We offer knowledge and certain technologies that might help, but each civilization must decide for itself how to respond. Over the following weeks, debates raged throughout the galaxy as news of humanity's return spread. Some worlds welcomed the development with excitement, eager for cultural and scientific exchange. Others closed their borders, fearing the legendary powers of humans. Director Kim and her crew found themselves at the center of it all. They had become the experts on human culture and intentions, sought after by leaders and scholars from countless worlds. I never wanted to be a diplomat, Kim confessed to Day One as they prepared for yet another meeting with government officials. I just wanted to study ruins. Day One laughed. Sometimes the ruins study us back. 6 months after their return, Kim stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Science Academy, watching as the first official human delegation arrived. Their ship, elegant and unlike any vessel in the galaxy, docked smoothly at the station. Han joined her at the window. "Do you ever regret finding those ruins?" he asked. Kim thought about all that had happened, the discovery, the fear, the wonder, and now the hope of a new era. "No," she replied. "Truth is always better than myth, even when it's complicated." The humans had kept their word about a gradual approach. They established small research outposts on uninhabited planets first, open to visitors from any world. They shared medical knowledge freely but kept their most advanced technologies restricted. They listened more than they spoke in galactic forums. A year after first contact, Kim traveled to a small planet in the Outer Rim where humans and the local species were working together to restore ecosystems damaged during Dominion attacks. Captain Lee was there, working alongside others in simple clothing, his hands dirty from planting native trees. "This is how it should have been the first time," he told her as they walked through the recovering forest. "Partnership, not patronage." "And the threat you spoke of?" Kim asked. "Has there been any sign of it?" Lee's expression grew serious. "It's still coming, moving slowly but steadily. We've established monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Some species have joined the effort. Others still don't believe it exists. Do you think we'll be ready when it arrives?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but we have a better chance together than apart. That's why ending our isolation was necessary, despite the risks." That night, Kim sat beneath unfamiliar stars, writing in her journal as she had done every evening since their great adventure began. Sometimes she could hardly believe how much had changed in just 1 year. The galaxy was transforming, not without difficulty or resistance, but with a new sense of possibility. The myths had been wrong about humans in many ways. They weren't gods or monsters. They were simply a species that had learned difficult lessons about power and responsibility, about the consequences of good intentions without wisdom. In the distance, she could see human and local children playing together, inventing games that combined elements from both cultures. She smiled, thinking of how many worlds were experiencing similar scenes of connection. The final page of her journal contained a quote from Council Speaker Young that had stayed with her. "The greatest achievement of any species is not the technology it creates or the territories it claims, but the wisdom to know when to step forward and when to step back, when to act and went to listen. As she closed her journal, a shooting star crossed the night sky. Kim made a silent wish, not for herself, but for all the species of the galaxy as they began this new chapter together. The age of isolation was ending. The age of truth was beginning. The end